Hello and welcome back to Serious About Rugby League podcast. It is our second edition, or it should be our third edition. We did record a second edition, but we couldn't get it out due to circumstances. I wasn't very well. I apologise, everybody. But we're back now, and we're going to get going again. I have actually joined with Ben this week. Ben is the runner, writer, organiser of the Serious About Rugby League website, and we're going to get a different perspective on a few different things this week. Another Leeds fan. All right, I'm gonna make a promise that at some point I will get somebody that isn't a Leeds fan on this podcast. We're going straight into it again. We're going to go to the Super League. We're going to go straight to the Thursday night game, which was between Wakefield and Catalan in Wakefield. And Wakefield came away with a win, and probably an important win given that the start wasn't the best that they had to offer, obviously, with a loss at London. They came out with an important win against Catalan.
Yeah, well, firstly I'll say hello. Good to be here. And I'm an unbiased Leeds fan. I actually watched the Wakefield Catalan game, and it surprised me really because for years we've always thought Catalan were big up front, and that's where the strength were in the forwards. But I actually thought it looked a bit light, like David Fafita, England, and a few of the big Wakey boys were running over him a little bit. And I never actually thought Catalan were going to win that game, even though in the end it were quite close.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch that. Obviously, Catalan have put a lot of emphasis on this big pack that they've grown, and obviously they've got the commander in Mickey Baculora, who's obviously been outstanding for a number of years for different clubs, and then you've now got this breed of new player outside the back with Tony Gigo and Sam Tompkins and David Mead. Obviously, look, Lewis Tierney looks like he's having the season of his life, but there's still something not quite right. Maybe it is just the typical Catalan weather thing. We can't really say that it's definitely a thing. I think there's enough talent in there that have played under these conditions for a long time that should be able to get results. But Wakefield have come away, and I mean, credit to them. They look like a serious team. I think people doubted them after the London game, but they've come out and they've proved that they've got what it takes to be up there.
Yeah. Well, I think that was an important game for Wakefield. Obviously, they've had a tricky start. I don't think anyone saw the result against London coming, but just going back to Catalans, I actually think the balance of their team doesn't look right. Obviously, Sam Tompkins has come in and Matty Smith, but something just didn't seem quite right about me. And their best player was Lange, who's been obviously pushed out towards the wing with Guijo in the halves now. So
it does seem strange to me that Gigo, having played 1-all last season and the season before, and obviously Sam Tompkins played 7 for England and played a bit at 7, but obviously was a number 1 for Wigan. It seems strange that they've signed Tompkins to go straight to 1, and they're gonna move Gigo out of the position that he's played for a number of years. I thought it would have made more sense to have Smith and Tompkins next to each other, having played together for a number of years, and then Gigo at the back. But I mean, that's a choice Brian McNamara has to make, and I'm sure it will come in time. But there is a bit of a worry whether they're going to be as good as people made them out to be at the start of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think I just end by saying with Catalans, obviously, Sam Tompkins in the second test against the Kiwis played in the halves, and he was my man of the match, really. Obviously, Makinson got the headlines, and Tony Guijo's a Lance Todd winner from fullback, so yeah, it just seems logical to me. But I mean, Steve McNamara's obviously seen something we haven't.
Yeah, we can only hope that they do get better, because obviously last year was such an important season for international rugby league. We want to see Catalan improving and doing better things, but there's a little like, banana skin problem in there, and it just needs to be ironed out before maybe we see the best of them. We'll go on to Friday night and a game that obviously I'm sure you're ready to talk all about. St Helens got the better of Leeds Rhinos at Langtree Park, and what was in the end a very controversial win, but was it deserved? I'm not sure. It's an interesting one. On the face of it, you've got to look at Leeds and you've got to say, from week 1 when they played Warrington and they looked a bit poor and a bit out of place, they've really put it together. They had that important first half against Wigan, which obviously went a bit sour, but they've gone to Salford. They've been emphatic at Salford, and then they've gone to St Helens, and they put in a really good performance against a team that everybody tips to be in the top 2.
Yeah, well, I don't know about controversial, to be honest. A lot of people are talking about some of the calls in the game and when they cost Leeds, but I think St Helens weren't at their best in that game. That's what I'm going to start by saying. Some of their tries were literally just barge over tries. Alex Worms obviously getting a double. So I don't think Leeds fans can really complain about the result too much, because maybe if St Helens had been scintillating and had to done a lot of runarounds and scored in the corner with something you can't defend against. But Leeds let in too many soft tries, and they've been doing it all season, and their attack's much better. But until they fix up the defence, I think they're going to be a bit off the pace, to be honest.
I think from a Leeds fan's point of view, and I say this to my flatmate all the time, and it's like there's still a transitional period that people don't understand. Like it's happening at Wigan, and it was expected at Wigan because obviously Tompkins and Bateman, even though replacements have been made, obviously Herdacre is expected to play better than Tompkins, and Greenwood's expected to take Bateman's place, but it's still a change in a system that's been set for a long time, and Leeds are still going through that. Lola Haya will be a good player, and I've said it since the start, he will be a good player. He looked fantastic in the World Cup. I expect him to do well. Conrad Hurrell will come good, and he started to come good, and over the next 2 or 3 weeks you'll see a different Leeds team to the one that you saw in the first 2 weeks. And I think this is important to say that St Helens are expected to be one of the best. So to come that close and to give that much effort is important for Leeds, and maybe an indication that they will be up there come the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think Saints have also showed in the first few rounds that they can really win these close games. Obviously against Wigan in the first week, and then last minute try against Wakefield, and then against Leeds. And people are forgetting they've lost Ben Barber, but you wouldn't be able to tell where they're playing. So I think at the moment St Helens, and we'll probably get on to talking about Warrington, but them two are the standouts so far. Obviously Cass have won all three as well, but at the moment that they're the two standout teams for me. And I think I agree with what you're saying about Leeds. It's a very much change in style, like you say, and I think especially when any team switches coaches, Leeds have gone from Brian McDermott, who is like a winner. He's a serial winner. He was good in the big games. Perhaps maybe not in the season games where Leeds' form's always been a bit iffy, but David Fern is an attacking coach. He got South Sydney to the best attacking team in the NRL, and I think that's where Leeds are really going to prosper this season. But again, I'll go back to it. They need to fix up the defence if they're going to be up there.
I wouldn't disagree, but as you said, other than St Helens, the team to watch this season so far are Warrington Wolves, and they also played on Friday night, and they came to the town that we're currently sat in. They came into Huddersfield and showed the Giants really why they need to be worried this season. Yeah,
well, Huddersfield were in this game for a long period, and I haven't actually seen the game itself, but I know there were some more promising signs for the Giants, and they actually signed well. They did Huddersfield before the season. I was really shocked when they were turned over convincingly by Salford in the first game. But Warrington are looking really good so far. The first game against Leeds were a 20-minute period where they were almost unplayable, and they've backed that up with a bit of a scratch win over OKR, and again they've battled in to beat Huddersfield. So I think they're serious contenders. I know we say it every year, but I think that they've got to really be looking at this year, and with some of the signings they've made, you've got to really fancy them to be at least in the grand final at the moment.
Yeah, you can't look too far ahead. Like, we can't go out and say, oh, they've got to win the grand final, they've got to win a final of some sort. You've got to look at it and say they've got to keep taking it week by week, and if they keep improving and they keep playing the way they're playing, then they will be unplayable come the end of the year. In terms of the Huddersfield game, I wouldn't say it was a classic. I didn't go myself, but my course was asked to go as part of our assignment, and what I've been told from my course mates is that it was a poor game to watch. It wasn't a spectacle. It wasn't a good rugby game, and Huddersfield struggled to really get up on the Warrington line. They were dominated a bit in midfield, and that's what we'll expect from Warrington this year. We'll expect them to go to teams and just dominate the midfield and get points off the back of it. And Huddersfield made the score look a bit more respectable, scoring a couple of late tries, but Huddersfield need to improve, and I think when it comes to playing teams like Warrington and Saints and maybe even Wigan and Castleford, they can't expect big things, but they've got to battle better, and they've got to work harder in that midfield battle, and they've got to get these games into it. They've got to do what Wigan have done for the last 5 years, turn those close games that they expect to lose into horrible, gritty midfield battles that they could win by 2 points.
Yeah,
and that's going to be key to Huddersfield staying in the division come the end of the season, because at the minute they are really, really struggling to perform at this level. We'll move on to the Saturday games, and there was a bit of a classic, probably the game of the week, maybe the Sunday game, but for me, I think this was probably a better showing of skill. Having watched the Wigan game before, I think there was a better showing of skill in this game, and that was between Hull KR and Salford. Salford came away winners after a big comeback, obviously trailing at half time. I think it was 22-6 at half time or 22-8 at half time, something like that. And they went on to win 24-22. Big result for Salford, proving obviously Hull KR have played very, very well. They played very well against Warrington. And these two teams are both teams that were like, which of these two teams are going to begin pushing for the top 5? One of them will be maybe finish 7th, one of them will maybe finish 5th. Which one's it going to be? And Salford has stamped the mark. They've gone to Craven Park and they've won.
Well, yeah, first thing I would say on that is bring back some bad memories for Hull KR, that match. Yeah, I think questions were asked to Salford. They went to Huddersfield first game, where played well, won convincingly. Then when they beat London 24-0, was it? So yeah, they were getting a lot of plaudits, but I think that big defeat to Leeds had people questioning whether, in fact, it was just the poor quality of the opposition they played in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, this was a great win for them because I think going in at half time, 2 scores behind, you wouldn't have fancied them. And Hull KR have started the season well. They were quite impressive at Warrington. Or I've heard from many people that were there. Were Rovers, so yeah, they'll be disappointed, but that's a big win for Salford, and I think Jackson Hastings really stood out from what I saw. He's just such a natural player, and
we talked about Robert Louis and Jackson Hastings so much that it's getting boring, but these two are probably the best partnership in the Super League.
Yeah, potentially, yeah, they work really well together, and it's amazing because Jackson Hastings has obviously played in an NRL winning team, and Rob Louis played alongside Jonathan Thurston for nearly a full season at North Queensland. So they're 2 outstanding players, and Salford have done really well to get them. And if they are to push for the playoffs this season, it's going to be largely down to them too.
I think it's an important win, and it's one that won't get read about come the end of the season. But if Salford were to make the top 5 by a point, this is the one that you look back and think, that's an important win at a difficult point in the season.
Yeah, for sure.
The other Saturday game was not as close or convincing if you're a London fan. Although, for the first 10 minutes, everyone was talking about the possibility of London being this home-dominant team as they went 6-0 up. And then, obviously, it all came crashing down against a Tigers team that, again, we talk about Castleford, and people seem to forget that Castleford are a big club in this division now. Like, they maybe not honours wise, but in terms of consistency, they're always in the top 4, top 5 for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're always there fighting, and they're there in the semi-finals of the big games. It's maybe not always gone their way, and obviously the grand final in 2017 didn't go their way, but they're there again, and they're here again, and they put a marker down. Wakefield went to London and lost. Castleford have gone and said, we're not going to lose, and they put 40 past London.
Yeah, well, in the end, it was very convincing, I think. I think the thing for Castleford before the season, there's a lot of question marks around them. They had injuries. Obviously, Luke Gale is a massive loss to them, but Truman's really stepped up, and in this game, he was the real standout player for me. He's got such a bright future, that kid, and yeah, for London, it's slightly worrying. After the opening day win, it's the results that they've had have kind of been expected. So it'd be interesting to see how they go in the next few weeks, whether they can actually get another win on the board. But for Cas fans, it's all smiles, I guess. They've obviously got bigger challenges ahead, but 3 out of 3, they can't complain.
Yeah, I think, well, I should say, I said 6-0. It wasn't 6-0, it was 6-all. But it was similar to the first game of the season in terms of Wakefield took the lead early doors and maybe took the foot off the pedal. And maybe it seemed like Castleford were going to do the same. But after London got that try and proved that they were going to be in the game, Castleford just went, no, we're going to foot on the neck and we'll finish it now.
Yeah.
And Castleford, as you said, maybe not had the most difficult of games early doors, but they've won 3.
Yeah.
And nothing's better for momentum than winning rugby games. And maybe this is the start of a special season for Castleford once again. It'd be interesting to see if it was a Warrington Castleford final, because which way would that go? I don't think anybody knows.
The thing I would quickly say about Castleford as well is they might not necessarily have the best players in the league, but for me they've got the best coach. They're the best coached team, and they're probably the most consistent in terms of week in, week out. They will always be competitive.
We'll move on to the Sunday game. Reluctantly, I'll move on to the Sunday game. We're going to completely ignore the Golden Point aspect, and we're going to talk about that later in its own little section, and we'll just talk about the game. Hull FC, and I've said it since week 1, people talk about 13-0, or 0-13 more accurately. Rubbish. End of the day, it's a new season, it's start again. They had 2 really, really tough fixtures early doors. They had to go to the derby, and no matter what day of the week it is, what round of the year it is, going to your local rivals is always a tough game, and they only just lost. They then had to go. They then had to play Castleford, who were being tipped up there with Warrington Saints, Wigan, the big teams. They're being. They will be up there come the end, and this week they've had to go to the home of the champions, and they've got 2 points. And no matter what you're writing about last season, players are coming back now. Jake Connor's fit again. Jake Connor was exceptional in this game, and Hull, when they get the team back together, will be a difficult team to beat in this division.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think for Wigan there was obviously a bit of a come down from the World Club Challenge, disappointment there, but I think people still expected Wigan to win this game. But I know you shouldn't really have favourites from other teams, but I really like Lee Radford. I think he's a great bloke. He's always honest in his interviews, and I think he is a good coach. So you get a few of the Hull faithful, Radford out brigade coming out of the woodwork, but he's a great coach. And this losing run they've been on, I mean, a lot can point to injuries, but winning is a habit and losing is a habit as well. And I think Hull kind of got into a losing habit, but they've got that first win on the board. That's the main thing. That's what they needed. They needed to get a win out of somewhere. It was out of Golden Point, funnily enough. But they've got that win now, and I think they can push on from now, and there's a lot less pressure on the players and Lee Radford.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think you look at it and Hull will be a difficult team to beat on their day, and when they've got people like Kelly and Connor and Sneed linking up and playing the best and playing flair rugby, it'll be difficult to stop, because you don't know what Jake Connor's going to do. Even at the best of times, when he was in an England shirt, you don't know what he's going to do. He could fling an offload outside, back looking the wrong way, or he could kick back across the field, and when you've got a player like that and he can execute these plays, defences can't stop these things, and I think Wigan became a bit of a sucker to that. Obviously, I think Adrian Lamb will be very disappointed in his left edge defence, given that the left edge defence was the strong aspect of the World Cup Challenge. Obviously, if you rewatch the World Cup Challenge, it was the right edge that struggled against the likes of Brett Morris, but it seemed like it was the left edge that struggled this time, and maybe you look into a time to put those two together. Positive for Wigan, young Byrne came into the team, and people have been talking about how impressive he's been in training, and this is a guy that has to get a train from Salford. He gets a train from Salford, cycles to training, and he's never late for training. His work ethic is fantastic, and he's coming to the team. He's got a try on his debut, and he's looked really, really good. And maybe this is a stretch to the future now, and we look at players like this, and Wigan maybe need to adapt to the losses that are going to come in the next couple of years. Ben Flower's been exceptional all season, and again was exceptional in this game. So I think positives are there for Wigan. Maybe, as you said, it's a come down from the World Cup Challenge, and they've lost this one, and they've just got to get into another game and just start going again. As a fan, I'm not too worried. I think the signs are there and the structures are there. It's just execution's not at its best. But once that execution comes, we're going to be a difficult team to stop, and they've got the players there to really cause trouble. I think over the course of the season, we'll see a different team playing. But I think this is two points that are important for Hull, probably more important for Hull than they are for Wigan, and it really opens the division up early doors.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd end by saying I'd be very, very surprised if Wigan are not in the top 5 at the end of the season.
I'm glad you said it and not me, because I don't want to be the one that got all the stick. We'll move to the Championship, and all the Championship games were on Sunday. There was obviously 2 teams that didn't play, but there was a draw in one of the games. That was between Barrow and Dewsbury, and probably a draw you'd expect, given that both teams have started really well. Obviously, Dewsbury were unlucky not to beat York, and Barrow, as I said in the first week, will be a difficult team to beat at home. And Barrow were at home, and they've become a difficult team to beat at home, and they got a point against Dewsbury.
No golden point in this one, then, no.
I'm assuming not. I don't actually know what the rules are for the Championship. I don't think there is a golden point, or maybe there is a golden point, and we just didn't know. No. There's not. But a good point for Barrow. I think it's a solid start, and there's some players in that Barrow team that are playing probably lower than they should be playing, and fair play to them, 'cause it's commitment to the club, and they're working hard for each other. And I can't see many teams, maybe obviously the likes of Toronto and Sheffield, who are playing very well, and they'll probably go to Barrow and they'll get 2 points. But for the likes of Dewsbury, Batley, Rochdale, they'll go to Barrow and they'll really, really struggle to get anything from the game. And I suppose credit to Dewsbury for actually going to Barrow and getting a point.
Yeah, not an easy place to go. I'll be honest, I've not seen many Barrow games lately, but I remember watching a game when they were playing Toronto at home, and the pitch was shocking.
Oh yeah, well, when we went in pre-season, it was absolutely pouring down with rain, and it was disgusting, and it was muddy and horrible, and almost impossible to play rugby on. But that's how they get the wins, and that's how the Barrow play rugby. And fair play to them. If you can get the point, if you get the jobs done, then you get the job done. We'll move on to a team that obviously everyone's talking about at the minute, which is York. And York have managed to get another win, and it's a big win this time. And it's the second time they've done it in the space of 2 years. They've gone to Odsal, and they've got 2 points. And fair play to York. They look absolutely incredible at the minute.
Yeah, well, the first game of the season against Toronto, they were very unlucky. They were in that contest up until the last quarter of the game, and I'm not surprised by that result, to be honest. Obviously, Bradford have won the Yorkshire Cup before the season, and I remember speaking to John Keir actually at the Championship launch, and he said he'd actually re-evaluated the Bulls' expectations before this season, which for me, I may have interpreted it wrong, but it's maybe suggested that they could actually challenge for promotion. But I think with the defeat to Sheffield and then this defeat to York here, I think he may have to re-evaluate them again, because it's not been a perfect start for the Bulls. But as for York, they've obviously got some great players, and I always said this about York all the time. It's such a great area for rugby league to grow in. I mean, it's an affluent area that if they can get into Super League within the next 5 years, that could really grow.
I don't disagree. I think York is a wonderful place, and both the football team and the rugby team are well followed, given that the football team's in the Conference North now, and the rugby team's always been in League One. To get 2,000 fans, 3,000 fans a week going, it's impressive, and it's in one of the it's probably one of the most beautiful cities in the country, and this is a place where, given the right promotion, and the fans will come out because they just love the city, and they'll come out just to support the city, and that's the kind of culture that we're trying to grow in rugby league. And I think York's a great place for it to start. And obviously, when you're getting victories like this, it makes it a lot easier to promote it. And I'll throw it out there now. If York are in the top 5 come the end of the season, I'll be very, very shocked. I expect them to be up there now. Connor Robinson looks like one of the best halves in the league, and the York team in general looks like they're directing the traffic the right way, and they've got obviously a lot of experience in there as well. So I expect York to be up there. I think Bradford, as you said, have probably got to reevaluate what's going to happen this year. If I was a Bradford fan, I would be hoping that we just that you just cruise through the season and you look to build sort of thing over the next 12 months, build the squad, build the experience within the team. And because I think next season is obviously the one that everybody's looking at, because people expect Toronto to go up. Obviously, it might not happen. People expect Toronto to go up, but next year it'll be a real battle to get that promotion spot into the Super League.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And the thing I'd say about Bradford is I think Super League misses. Well, I know as a Leeds fan, I definitely miss the Leeds-Bradford derby. And obviously such a big club, Bradford. I'd love to see him back in Super League.
There's a few other games that went on. Obviously, Toulouse had a very close win at Swinton, actually, which maybe might be a bit shocking. Obviously, I think people expect Toulouse to be in the top 5 and then Swinton, obviously, to be struggling at the bottom. But Swinton put in a good test and maybe proved that they can still hack it and they want to be in this division. Batley got a good win against Rochdale at home, probably an important win for their survival chances. And then Featherstone obviously dominated against Halifax, which you said you thought was a bit of a shock, because obviously Halifax had been a very strong team in that division for a number of years. But Featherstone did the job and they got a massive win, 46-16.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say it was a shock as in terms of Featherstone won. I think it was just the scoreline that kind of stood out to me. I think Ryan Carr's gone in at Featherstone and he's done really well. Obviously, they got beat at Lee, and it was a close game by all accounts. So I think that they could be. I think I'm looking at the championship now, and I'm just looking at it thinking who could be the team that could cause Toronto problems in the playoffs, because, like you said, everybody's expecting Toronto to go up, but we thought that last year, and London went there in the £1 million game and won it. So
at the minute, you've got to look at Sheffield, who are going and getting results at places that Sheffield don't normally get results at. It's mad. We've spoke about this a lot, and we spoke about it a little bit in the first week. And Sheffield, for a number of years, obviously they became professional again, but there was never a switch. There was never a moment that it went, oh, Sheffield are a pro club again. And they had that first season in the million. They were in the qualifiers, but they finished rock bottom. They really struggled. And then since then, they've been on a 6th place, 7th place finished team. But this season, they've come out 3 wins from 3, 70 plus points on points difference, and they've got wins that you don't expect Sheffield teams to get.
Yeah,
maybe they are the team that will be up there at the end. Who knows? Well,
that would obviously, they've got great rugby league history of Sheffield, and it was one of those strange scenarios where they actually went full time, and it actually damaged the club, because a lot of those players who were part time wanted to stay part time because they could earn more money. So in the end, Sheffield went full time and lost a lot of players, and yeah, they've had to rebuild from that. So yeah, I'd love to see Sheffield back up there, and it's been a fantastic start from obviously their game were called off at Widnes this weekend, but they can get back at it on Friday and make it 4 from 4.
And I wouldn't back against them at this point. The only other game in the Championship is obviously the one that's on Sky every week, which is the Toronto fixture. They went to Lee this week, and they got the win again. But everyone keeps saying Toronto are going to do this, Toronto are going to do that. But Toronto are the scalp for every single team in this division, and everybody wants to beat Toronto. So they'll be going to places like Lee, who are no easy win. They'll be up there challenging the top 5 as well. And as proved, they got a really, really tough game.
Well, yeah, and I think we were chatting before we came on, and Toronto could win every single fixture this season, and they could still lose the £1 million game again. That's what's crazy about this whole situation, obviously, with it being a 5-team playoff in the Championship as well. And I honestly don't think they'll be far off winning every game, if I'm honest with you. I think this is one of the toughest games they're going to have away to Lee. Obviously, the two clubs have a lot of history with Paul Rowley and ex-players on the opposing sides. But yeah, they can tough it out, can Toronto. They're a good side, and they'll still be smarting from the fact they're not in Super League. I mean, I think a lot of people still can't believe it, to be honest. But
London did something special, and they deserve that credit. As for Lee, I don't think it's really clicked at Lee yet. I suppose there's a few players that are coming in and out on loan. Obviously, Danny Richardson's now there for a month, and which obviously it helps and doesn't help in many different ways. But if you look at the team on paper, I mean, there's some fantastic players in this team, and like Martin Ridyard, Stefan Marsh, Ian Thornley, Josh Woods, Danny Richardson, all got Super League experience. Mickey Hyam's one of the most experienced in the game, period. So they've got a team on paper that should be challenging the top, and maybe there's a couple of results that haven't gone their way early doors, but once it starts to come together, surely that Lee are going to be a threat for every team in the division.
I think you just said it there. I think that the biggest challenge John Duffy's got is gelling them together. But what he's done, what's really clever, is he's got a lot of local lads back in there, and they're obviously the more passion, they have more pride in the shirt, and Lee have obviously got that good win over Featherstone, and they've run Toronto close, and the more they gel, the more dangerous they'll be, and I think they'll be the closest challengers to Toronto.
Okay, so we've touched on Super League and Championship, and we touched on our next point briefly in terms of the game itself, but let's talk about everybody's least favourite topic at the minute, which is Golden Point. I'll ask you first and foremost rather than giving my opinion, because obviously I feel like when you talk to a Wigan or a Hull fan at this moment in time, everybody's excluding their opinion. So let's ask you, as a neutral fan, what do you think of the Golden Point? Obviously we had a Golden Point this weekend between Wigan and Hull. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And does it help improve the excitement of the game?
Well, it definitely improves the excitement of the game, but I was born in the 90s. I'm not exactly a dinosaur, but I'm a bit of a traditionalist in that I think if you've played for 80 minutes and it's a draw for me. That's just the way I look at it. Obviously, it's the additional excitement, but if you're a player out there and you've really put your heart and soul into that game, and then you've lost in Golden Point, it's a devastating way to lose. Obviously you can't have a choice with it for playoff games, whatever. But for league games, I just think a draw is a draw. And there's obviously this talk of, I had somebody mention this week that both teams should automatically be on a point as it goes into Golden Point. Then whoever wins gets 2 points, and then the loser gets 1 point because they've got to Golden Point. But I'll quash that one for a start, because that you can't have some games worth 2 points and some games worth 3 points, because they'll just agree to play till Golden Point, and then at least one of them's got a point.
That's not.
Yeah, so that one's out of the way. And then it just comes down to whether you want Golden Point or a draw, and it's just a matter of opinion, really. But it is going to add excitement. We'll have to just wait. I think that obviously people are talking about it now, but I think the first game that's on Sky that goes to Golden Point is when everybody's really going to start giving an opinion on it.
I think my personal opinion is, it's interesting that you obviously say yourself you think a draw is a draw. My opinion, even after a loss in Golden Point, is still strong. I'm still pro Golden Point. I think the biggest problem is, and people have spoke about it a lot this week, is that you can get a team like Hull who have somebody like Mark Sneyd, and not everybody's blessed to have somebody like that. And even though they did get a penalty and it piggybacked them up the field and it got an easy shot, they could have got to halfway line, and Sneyd has still got the capability of putting it over it from 60 metres, because he's got that good of a boot, which means that the other team's not going to get a chance at following up from that. Maybe you do something. It sounds stupid, because obviously we don't have the same sort of systematics as we do as the American football game does. But when that goes to overtime, the first drive can't be. You can't win the game from the first drive unless it's a touchdown. So maybe we do something the same in Super League. You can't win from the first set. You can't win unless it's a try. If you get a point, then the other team gets a chance to then get a point, and then and then from that moment onwards, it's open field, because then you've played 5 minutes, and if it's still going at that point, then it's an open field. So you just whatever comes next. Trev obviously said it should be golden try, but you can still play for points, and after the 10 minutes, if you're a point up, then you've won Golden Point. But to stop the game, you have to score a try, which is again a different way of doing it. I think this season, obviously, we've not got a choice. We've got Golden Point, and I'm an advocate of Golden Point. I think it makes the game more exciting. And I think at this point, although obviously we always say a good 80 minutes and a good draw, end of story, which is a fair excuse. You've got to look at the face of it that rugby league as a sport needs to grow, and we are growing slowly, but we need to grow faster. And the only way to bring in fans is to make the game exciting. yes, for us that love the guys that love rugby league, we love a draw. We want, oh yes, last minute try, or can he kick it to win? Oh, fantastic, like great work. But for those that don't love the sport as much, and they watch it and it's 20-all, and they go, oh, it's finished 20-all. Oh, they're going to play another 10 minutes. Or watch this 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes could then lead them to watching another game. And it brings in that aspect of exciting new fans. And it sounds silly for those of us that listen, obviously, really enjoy rugby league. But for those that aren't as big a fans of the game, it's a different aspect. And I think maybe something that's important to bring forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a great point. Yeah, the golden try rule I like. But yeah, I think well, what you've just said, it's a matter of getting new fans. And I mean, I'm not one of these people that's against it. I'm going to be shouting about it on social media. I'm willing to go with it, see how we go.
I think it's very much a case at this point that the fans that don't seem happy with it are Wigan fans, and the fans that seem happy with it are Hull fans. And that's understandable.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've got to just flatten it out and just say, look, at some point in the season we'll probably win a golden point.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
so
could be this weekend. You never know.
It's one of those things like, and if we don't do one this year, we'll probably do one next year, and it will iron itself out. People win, but it also brings in the element of having a goal kicker, somebody that can slot those drop goals, and the importance of players like Sam Tompkins, Matty Smith, Merck Sneed. Daddy Richardson obviously is at Leeds, not at St Helens at the minute. But those players that have made a game out of drop goals, I mean, this would have been fantastic for Warrington when Lee Breeze was about. They'd had the time of their lives. Like, this is maybe another element that you've got to fit into your squad, and it's another tactical change that a coach has to think about. I think it's a good thing. I think it should be promoted well, and fans are going to get annoyed. It's going to be frustrating, but come the end of the day, we're going to be happy, and it's going to make the sport a better spectacle. And for a neutral, I suppose, for a Wigan fan, if I was watching a Hull derby and it went to Golden Point, I'd be loving life as I watch the game. So you've got to take those into account.
Yeah, I don't know if you read this, but in the Hull Daily Mail, the Hull players were behind the sticks as Hardacre was lining up the conversion to win the game, and they were plotting how they were going to kick that winning field goal, which again points to what you've just said about having a good goal kicker, because
I think Zach Hardacre, I mean, people are saying, oh, I should have kicked it. And it's like, well, he kicked the other three, and they weren't exactly easy kicks. I mean, the Ben Flower one was an easy kick, but the other two were easy. And he's improved a lot, and his percentage rate is still over 70%, so we can't blame him. I think the kick that he actually missed, I'll do air quotations, obviously you can't see me.
Yeah.
It was mightily close. I mean, it looked like he went over the post, which means that it could have gone one or two ways, realistically, and that's just unfortunate. At the end of the day, I think you've got to just take it as it is. Like, I'm a fan of Zach Hardacre kicking. I think he'll improve. Sam Tompkins, people forget, had like a 40-50% conversion rate before last season, and then all of a sudden became a really, really good goal kicker. And you just got to stick with these people, I think. But it is what it is, and I'll say it and I just say that to end, because I think fans are going to get really, really attached to this idea of losing, but it shouldn't be too worried about at this point. You shouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's early days, and obviously Robert Elliston's brought in some great rule changes. Obviously the shot clock I'm a big fan of. We're speeding up the game, less interchanges, and the Golden Point one was the only one I looked at and thought, ooh, not sure about that. But like I say, I'm willing to go with it, and it's brought it's going to bring a lot of talking points, gets people talking about the game, can attract new fans. So yeah, I'm willing to go with it, and yeah, if we can get more Golden Point victories than we lose, then I'll definitely be a fan of it.
And that is all we have time for. We did have other things to speak about, but the computer's run out of space, so we're going to have to cut it short, and we're about 40 minutes in, which is about right anyway. Thank you very much for listening this week. We've got lots of exciting things lined up for this podcast, and we're going to hopefully bring you those in the next few weeks, and we'll bring you more information as we get it. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.